Okay, there we are. We're live now. Welcome. My name is Amrita. This is Amrita by the Book, and I am joined today by the lovely Rosie, whom, if you're a regular to my channel, you already know who Rosie is. You're probably following her channel as well. There's like a link down below to her channel. Rosie, why don't you just like introduce your channel a little bit?
I am unsurprisingly a booktuber. I read a pretty wide variety of books, I think, some popular ones, some that are about random things that sound interesting, and sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. But I like to think that if you're looking for something diverse, yes, in the sense of like diversity of race and types of people and stuff, but also just like you want to hear about different books in every video, then I think I'm probably a good channel to follow because I don't read in just one genre.
That is very true. And that is one of the things that I love the most about your channel. And I really like the fact that you're one of the people who reads like nonfiction and fiction, and you'll read things that are highbrow as well as, just like fun things. And we're joined by Renee, who is a librarian of Alexandria and who's the person who actually did the challenge. So we are actually today we're going to be doing the Easter book challenge, which is something that Renee came up with. And I told Renee with full confidence that, oh yeah, I'm going to do it before Easter. Don't worry. Except I think she did it the week before Easter Sunday. And I always forget that Easter Sunday comes like towards the earlier part of April rather than towards the end of April. I think there was like 1 year when it was like around like the 18th or something. And ever since then, I've been convinced that it comes at the end of April. So Easter kind of took me by surprise, but it's okay because as Lana told us, Lana X Libris, who's our other booktuber friend, tomorrow is actually the Russian Easter because apparently Russia is like 1 month later and everything. So it's still before Easter. It's just before Easter, like Russian Easter. So there you go.
And it's before Easter of next year.
Yeah, there you
go. We're really
ahead
for that.
Yeah. That's one way of looking at it. Also, I messed up a little bit and I forgot that this weekend is actually virtual JaneCon and I'm taking part in it. So I actually posted a video earlier this evening for JaneCon. So there's like a lot of Amrita content on my channel today, for which I apologize if you're just
this
like
is something to apologize for. This is good.
I feel like there's like too much Amrita right now in the world. And especially because I've been making a song and dance about like, oh, on weekends I do lives. So therefore I don't post that much during the week anymore so that I can control my output. And then I just completely messed up. It was like, here are like 7 videos on the same day. So I'm sorry about that. Anyway, so Renee's Booktube challenge is actually pretty fun, but I did laugh because she said that the goal is to do like, like put up stuff within like 9 minutes, like to answer it within 9 minutes. Rosie, when was the last time you finished answering anything within 9 minutes?
For tags, actually, sometimes.
Really?
Because I often find I'm like, here's a book. I don't know what to say about it. It's a book. So other than that, though, yeah, that's a challenge. But maybe I might be short. I don't know.
It might be like I was actually thinking about it. Like maybe we might be able to pull it off because this is a book-centric challenge rather than like a personal question challenge. So maybe we can actually do it. But so you've got 9 minutes. I've got 9 minutes. We don't have a timer. So I guess we'll find out at the end, like what's happening. Anyway, shall we start?
Yes, let's go.
Okay, good. So there are different prompts, and the first prompt is yellow. It's just yellow. And she says that there has to be yellow on the cover, and there doesn't have to be a lot, but there needs to be yellow on the cover. Um, so I'm a ebook reader, as people who come to my channel might know, and I actually have wait, where's my Kindle? What am I doing
Oh,
here?
that's prepared of you. That was smart.
Yeah, like I have like a ton of things that are yellow, and I thought like those anchored hearts, which wait, I just finished talking about, I guess, on one of my earlier. I have no idea where my camera is, but basically, those Anchored Hearts by Priscilla Oliveras. And there's a book channel called A Mighty Blaze, and our friend Margaret Pinard is associated with it, and they do like author interviews and stuff on it. And today, just a little earlier, they posted an interview with Priscilla Oliveras, who wrote Anchored Hearts. So if you're interested in contemporary romance, it's coming, or it came out on the 27th of April. So it's brand new. This past week was its book birthday. So, and it's like, it's a Cubano contemporary romance with second chance elements that's set in the Key West. And it's really sweet. It's closed door for people who don't like too much explicit stuff. So yeah. What about you, Rosie?
That sounds really cute.
Yeah.
I might have grabbed the prompts for the wrong tag. Either that or I missed the first one. Is your next prompt rabbits?
No! What?
Oh
Wait,
no,
let
I
me
got
see.
totally the wrong one.
Oh no! You've got like completely different ones. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm so sorry.
That's hilarious. Okay,
I just
so then
searched for the Librarian of Alexandria Easter tag and went with the first one.
no, that's hilarious.
This has been spectacular bad coordination on my part.
I even asked you if you wanted the questions, and you were just like,
I
yes,
know, and I
etc.
should have said yes. I got overly confident.
Okay, here's what we're gonna do. So here we go. We have like double the tag, right? So why don't you do your Easter tag prompts, and then
Sounds
I'll do
good.
mine.
I've also got 9 prompts, so
There you go. 9 is the lucky number. All right, what's
Yeah.
your first prompt?
My first prompt is Rabbits, a book you wish would multiply. So a book you want a sequel to that doesn't have one. This was actually really hard because I feel like everything I read is either already a series or it's a standalone that's so like well encapsulated that I'm like, I don't necessarily need a sequel because it did everything. So I've chosen Princesses Behaving Badly by Linda Rodriguez McRoby, which is a nonfiction history book that does like mini biographies about a lot of women from history who didn't fit into societal norms or didn't do what society expected of them and were badasses in a variety of ways. You know, some of them were like, warrior princesses, some of them were political leaders, ruthless people, just like did all sorts of stuff that they weren't expected to. And the reason I really want a sequel is I loved that book. It was so good. It was so fun. And every time I try and read something that sells itself as similar, it just doesn't work as well. Like, it was sort of like, it was the first one I read and I thought, this is going to be a genre that I love. And maybe it's that you only want one, but every time I try and read something similar, I'm just like, this just isn't doing it. So I need her to write another book because this is apparently the only book she's written. I'm like, no, do more. You were great.
When did this come out? Do you know?
Oh, I want to say it was like 2012 or something, maybe.
Okay, well, you've got like 9 years, lady. Like,
Exactly.
Write something.
Yeah. There's more badass women. Let's tell us about them.
Okay, back to Renee's challenge. And as Renee pointed out, like hers is a challenge, not a tag. I think that's where we went wrong.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That's what
I
happened.
figured I'm sorry, Renee.
And I'll put a link down to like whoever did this other Easter tag because we've just been saying Renee's tag. Anyway, the next one that she came up with was Maundy Thursday, and it is a free for all. And I think for that, I'm just going to recommend the book that I'm reading right now, which is She Who Became the Sun by Kelly Parker Shan, and it is it's a alt history version of Chinese history, and it's about this woman who is born into, well, it's a girl who's born into this family of poor farmers, and they're all dying of famine. And there's drought, and she's a girl, and obviously her family don't value her as much. And she, by like a whole set of circumstances, she's the only survivor of her family left, and she pretends to be a boy, and in particular her brother, and scams her way through the world until she ends up as the emperor. And it is intense. Like, it is like the description said Mulan meets the Song of Achilles, and I was like, well, yes, I would read that, thank you very much. And I'm so glad that I got this book. It's coming out in, I think, either June or July, I forget which, but it is it's pretty great so far.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But it is intense. I do want to point out that it's not for the faint of heart.
Okay.
Yeah. What about you?
So my next prompt is Egg, a book that surprised you. So I'm going for The Martian by Andy Weir. If any of you guys have watched my channel, you will know that I'm notorious for taking years to read popular books because I'm afraid that they're going to be bad. Then reading them and going, of course they're amazing. There's a reason that everyone loves them. Well, that was absolutely the case with The Martian, and it was one of the first that this happened to me with. A bookseller recommended it to me in like 2014, and I thought, that sounds depressing. That sounds stressful. That sounds like I'm not going to enjoy it at all. So I didn't buy it, and I ignored it for years until finally I listened to the audiobook, and it turns out it's hilarious and it's an amazing book, and I should have just read it when the guy told me to, because everyone knows independent booksellers are like always right and recommend the best books. So why don't I listen to them? Why was I surprised? I don't know, but I was.
I still haven't read that book. Like, I've seen the movie. I have not read the book, but I will at some point, especially since you like it. You're a good weather vane for me. Yeah, you're a good weather vane for me. Like, if you like it, then I know that I probably will like it. Meal. Okay, next prompt in the challenge is Meal 12, which is a meal with 4 to 11 people. And I actually did not write a book for this because I was like, I don't know, like, should I just go for something like The Murder on the Orient Express? Because they do have a meal with like multiple people in the dining car and stuff, but they're not really dining together as such. I feel like Agatha Christie wrote a lot of dinner scenes in her books, whether it's things like, I don't know, there's that, what was it? The cards on the table thing, where, I can't remember the. It's a good one. It's where Poirot is invited to this dinner with a bunch of murderers, and then there's like all these things happening, and Poirot needs to solve the case before morning or something. Like, it was pretty great. And then there was also And Then There Were None, in which they have like very elaborate meals, but it all ends in murder. So yes.
Not dinners you want to be invited to.
Not dinners you want to be invited to, but dinners you want to read about a lot.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No one would want to read about the kind of dinner you want to be invited to, where you have some good food and polite conversation and nothing dramatic happens at all.
No, nobody wants that.
My next prompt is Hunt, a book that was hard for you to get your hands on. This one, I feel kind of like it's cheating because it wasn't hard to get my hands on, but if I had wanted to find it, it probably would have been. So it's called Yellowknife by Steve Zip. It was released in like 2007, and it's magical realism set in the town of Yellowknife in the far north of Canada in the lead up to the year 2000. And like, there's weird stuff going on. There's a woman turning into a mouse. There's a man who's older than the country. It's very strange. I actually bought it when I was on vacation in Yellowknife and like in an independent bookstore, because that's what you do when you go on vacation. You go to the bookstore and you're like,
Correct.
Ooh, that sounds good. Never seen that before. Cool. Buy all this stuff. But yeah, I guess it's on Kindle now, but I think if I'd wanted to find it like when it was newer, like I don't think I would have. So it's, like I said, it's a bit cheating, but.
Is this, no, I don't think this is the book, but I think you once said that you found a book and then nobody else has ever read it because it's only published in Canada. I don't know if this is the book. I think that was
This is probably another one.
Yeah, I feel like that's a book of poetry or something.
Yes, there's a book of poetry that's about the area where I live, and it's like a historical poetry, but like, yeah, you can't find it anywhere. Because...
I know, because I tried and I couldn't find it. Okay, the next one so this is actually the question why, like, I asked Rosie to be a part of this challenge, except she found a completely different challenge. And it's because the moment I read this prompt, I started laughing because it felt like it was a prompt made just for Rosie.
Okay, I'll try and answer it anyway once you've gone.
Okay, it's number 4, Trips, a book with hiking in nature or in the city. And in parentheses, she writes, no quest walks. And I feel like that's like protection against Lord of the Rings. Like, you can't do Lord of the Rings. And I was like, yeah, well, of course, that would be like the first thing that Rosie came up with. Okay, so my answer for that is a book that I read earlier this year. It's called The Witch's Heart by Genevieve Gornichek, and I have spoken about this before on my channel. I love that book. It's actually a lot sadder than anything that I've read for the past year, because I was very consciously not reading anything too sad. But this particular book was so beautifully written, and it's based in like Norse mythology, and it's about this witch, this ancient witch who has almost lost her memory because she's been burnt at the stake like multiple times in an effort to kill her because she offended Odin. And she somehow escapes, and now she's living in the middle of this forest. And Loki finds her there just because, you know, he's up to no good. And they end up having these children together. And there's like a whole bunch of other things that happen. And you think it's going to be a very standard fantasy, but it's not. It's really meditative, and but not in like a boring, dry way, but in a very beautiful, heart-wrenching kind of way. And at the end of it, I actually cried. Like, it's been a while since a book made me cry, but this book, like, I was just straight up weeping by the end of it. But it's beautiful as well.
Wow, yeah, sounds incredible.
Yeah, it's good.
I'm going to take this one. I'm going to answer it anyway, even though I didn't prepare one, because you're right. I totally would have gone for Lord of the Rings without that caveat. With a book that I hated back in January, Lillian Boxfish Takes a Walk. I always mix it up with the Eleanor Oliphant is Totally Fine one for no good reason. But this one's Lillian Boxfish Takes a Walk by Kathleen Rooney. And it's supposed to be very like stream of consciousness, reflecting on this remarkable woman's life as she walks around New York for an evening. Except, okay, I've spent 6 days in New York. And I can confidently say that this feels like it was written by someone who has never even read about New York. Because everywhere she goes, she has these heartfelt, meaningful connections with strangers who are seemingly thrilled to be having weird connections with this random old lady on the side of the street. And I'm just like, have you ever been to a city? I live in a city a fraction the size of New York, and people never just like start having deep and meaningful conversations with random people. But she does do a big walk.
Okay. What was the question for your tag?
This one's hilarious. It's Lambs, a children's book you still enjoy. And I have, of course, chosen The Hobbit by Tolkien. I have a type. Maybe I'm more predictable than I thought. But, I mean, it's a classic for a reason.
Yeah. I can't be mad at The Hobbit. I can't believe like Renee would be mad at The Hobbit either. And also The Hobbit also works because, you know, he's hiking through nature.
It's true. It's true.
Okay. Next up, let's see, mystery. A mystery book. Okay. This is a book I haven't read as yet, but I'm really interested to read. It's coming out in July, and I have an advanced reader copy, so I will be reading it sometime this month. It's called Silence in the Library by Catherine Shellman. Yeah. Also, I got a couple of my friends to start reading the Sebastian Sincere series, which, you know, I'm going to make everyone read it. What's your sixth prompt?
The one I am on next is Spring, a book with a cover that makes you think of spring. And I've chosen The Invention of Nature, Alexander von Humboldt's New World by Andrea Wolf. It's a really, really cool book about a German naturalist, scientist type person in the 1800s who did a bunch of exploring in South America, but like in an alarmingly not European man from the 1800s way, and also was really influential in European science in general and stuff. But the cover has this beautiful big green plant and like some flowers on it, so
I actually want to read that book. I've heard of it before, and I actually really want to read it. So
it's really cool.
Okay. Okay, moving on. I'm being so good about this. I'm just like moving at such a fast clip for me. Number 6, Rising from the Dead, a book that came out years after the original series. And listen, if you have a type, so do I, because this has to be The Wheel of Time, which was finished by Brandon Sanderson after Robert Jordan died. We all thought that was it, like, you know, when Jordan passed away, and the best that we could hope for was like maybe his widow would release his notes so that we knew how everything would, you know, end. But then instead, the Jordan estate actually hired Brandon Sanderson to finish the series, and we didn't get, so we were supposed to get one book out of it, but Sanderson being Sanderson and then Jordan being Jordan, like Jordan had left behind like, you know, the arc for the ending of the book, and Sanderson started writing it, and he was like, this is not one book, this is actually going to be like 3 books, or else it's going to be like a 4,000-page book. Like, make your choice. So we ended up with like 3 books, and I am delighted that happened. So yeah, that's my choice.
Nice. My next prompt is Jesus, a religious or spiritual book that you love. And I have to go for a history book because it's the only way I can bring religion into my reading. I'm not a religious person. So I've chosen Pontifex Maximus, A Short History of the Popes by Christopher Lascelles. It's 400 pages, so short is debatable, but like it covers the whole history of the popes from like the beginning of the Catholic Church till now, so I'll allow it. But despite sounding like it is probably an incredibly dense and boring and like not at all interesting book, it was fascinating and riveting and just really engaging. And if you've had any interaction with Catholic history, you know there was some messed up shit that they were doing and like crazy shenanigans. And this book definitely like leans into that without going into comedy. It's definitely a history book, but it's a very readable history book despite sounding like it should be a brick that everyone has on their shelf and no one ever opens.
I do like how the prompt is just like Jesus. That made me laugh.
Jesus.
Okay. Next up, number 7, Foretold, a prophecy book. Actually, I wanted to ask if anyone would be interested in doing a reread or a first-time read of Dune by Frank Herbert, because I haven't reread it since I was a teenager, and I actually want to read it before the movie comes out, whenever that might be. But so let me know in the comments or in the chat, like whatever, if you would be interested in doing a reread or a
I've never read
have
it,
you read
but
it?
I want to. No.
Oh,
It's one of those
okay,
books that
yeah.
I've never got, but I saw Ali of Book Binge recently call it, like, I think it was her who called it the Lord of the Rings of sci-fi, and I was like, okay, well, I like Lord of the Rings. I think I like sci-fi. I should read Dune. Maybe it's not as scary as it looks.
I don't know if I would call it Lord of the Rings.
I don't think like she meant in like the content way, but like in the place it holds.
I see. Yes.
The genre.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's so big and like lore dense, I think, versus action packed. So like,
yes,
that sounds fun. Yeah.
I'm just very wary of like comparing things to things, because I'm just like I get people like, people just get really upset. Like I've learned to take comparisons like that with a pinch of salt, so I don't get that upset when people say that. But I've definitely come across a lot of people who get very upset when it's not exactly like the thing that it's being compared to.
And the elements that you're thinking about when you compare something might not be the elements that someone else takes out of the book. Like you can compare two things because it's like, oh, it's got like a similar structure and pacing and type of storytelling. And they read it and go like, what do you mean? There's no hobbits. How is this at all like Lord of the Rings? This isn't... I was expecting, Frodo something.
Yeah. I think it just makes, I've learned to be extremely precise in my language when I start comparing things, because I'm just like, this particular aspect is like this other thing, so that nobody comes trying to lynch me after they read it. And then they're just like, this thing, I read it because of you. And it really wasn't.
That's very wise of you.
I haven't, it's very hard-won wisdom, because I've definitely been yelled at. I also want to know like how I would feel about this book as an adult, because I think when I read it, I didn't give it, like it was like one of the many books that I was reading, at the time. Like, so I just zipped through it and I had a good time, but I think perhaps it would be one of those books that you can really think about and you can just really delve into. And I think that's been the experience for most of my friends who love that book. So we should do a read of some kind of that. So that would be good. What's your prompt?
Mine is Rising from the Dead, a book from a deceased author. I've chosen Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy by John le Carré, who unfortunately passed away last December, because I think that might have been the first or one of the first adult books that I read and like enjoyed and was like, I like this.
Mm-hmm.
I'll fully admit it was because of the 2011 movie, because I mean, I was 17. It
Great.
had every hot British guy in it. Of course I was into that. But since then I've gotten really into Le Carré's works, and I need to read more of them because everything I've read I've liked, but there's so many that you sort of put them off. But yeah, that one's really good. And it's one of those ones that every time you reread it, you get more out of it, and it's a thriller, but it's also like gets better with rereading.
I agree. I really like that book. I like Le Carré, in general. Okay, number 8, Shrek, a funny middle grade slash fairy tale retelling, or both. Okay, so last year I read this retelling of The Goose Girl by Intisar Kanani, and they have a sequel of sorts up this year, and it's called Theft of Sunlight. And the first book was obviously about the Goose Girl, and you can read it as a sort of standalone. But the second book, it's interesting. Like, it's set in the same world as the first book, but it's a duology, which I wasn't aware of when I started reading it. And then there was a surprise cliffhanger, and I was just like, why? But the second book, somebody on Goodreads said that it was actually like a Pied Piper of Hamelin retelling, because there's this whole plot, like the central mystery of this book is that there are these children that are going missing in this kingdom, and that nobody really knows what's happening to them. And it's a pretty distressing plot, like that particular thread. And this book is like, I don't know if it's like middle grade as such. Like, I don't know if I would necessarily call it middle grade, because there are like nothing happens on screen, but there are all these things that are happening in the background that you're just going, well, these are pretty heavy themes, but it's a closed door romance. Well, in this one, the romance is like very much like, it's not really a romance even. It's just that you know that these two people have a connection, and that's it. And it's really about this woman, this very young woman who is on a mission. And I really like her, and I really enjoy the things that are happening in this book, but I wish I'd known that it was a duology before I started reading it. But I feel like since you will have that information if you choose to start reading it, I feel like you would probably react better to the ending than I did.
Right. Oh, that sounds really cool.
What's your prompt?
All right. Mine is, of course, my phone is going to take right now to lock, annoyingly. I have Baskets, a book that is in your Amazon cart or wish list right now, which, like, I mean, what book isn't in my wish list right now? So I've gone based on one of the most recent editions, and that is Till by Daniel Kelman.
Yeah.
This is apparently magical realism about the 30 Years' War with a protagonist who's been transported from even earlier in the history or something. I don't know. It sounds amazing. Katja Weinart was talking about it the other week, I guess, now, and it sounded so freaking good, and she made it sound amazing. But also, I'm the sort of person who, when I hear that a book club was entirely divided and half of them loved it and half of them DNF'd it, I'm like, okay, well, now I need to read this book. That's what makes me want to read things, not the book that everyone goes, we all loved this book, it was the best book ever. I want to read the one that maybe I'll love it, maybe I'll hate it.
Yeah, it immediately went on my wish list as well the moment I saw Katya's video. So yeah, definitely. Okay, last question. Life of Brian, a book with many misunderstandings. This was actually hard because misunderstandings is like one of my least favorite tropes in any book. I really, really, really don't like it. So I don't really search them out. But I finally found something that I think fits, and it's The Scarlet Pimpernel, which Have you read it?
I haven't, but I've heard a lot about it.
It's one of my favorite classics, actually. It's set during the French Revolution, and it's about this beautiful French woman who marries an English aristocrat. And when we meet them for the first time, there's a distance between husband and wife because she's not an aristocrat, and she came from the French intellectual class and was actually a supporter of the French Revolution. And obviously her husband is an aristocrat, and they fell in love in Paris before the revolution, and they got married, and then shortly after the marriage the revolution took place, and then it seems that she might have helped denounce one of the French aristocrats that she had a grudge against to the revolution, and they ended up at the guillotine. And that is obviously something that her husband can't forgive. So there's like this whole thing between the two of them. And also there's this mysterious figure called the Scarlet Pimpernel. And now one of her old French Revolution contacts, who's now a secret agent for France and the Revolution Tribunal, I suppose, is now blackmailing her with the safety of her brother. And they know that the Scarlet Pimpernel is an Englishman who helps French aristocrats escape from, going to the guillotine and stuff. So they want her to help them catch the Scarlet Pimpernel. And she doesn't want to, but she has to, because otherwise her brother will die, basically. So there's she can't tell her husband. Her husband thinks that she's a murderer. She's trying to her loyalties are divided. There's a whole bunch of things happening. So yeah, it's a good book.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
My last prompt is Candy, a book that is sweet. And I've gone with Soulless by Gail Carriger, partly because I think it's a really sweet, fun book, and also partly because I know Renee really likes that series as well, and rightly so. It's a very good series. But it also made me think, and now I'm getting us diverted into discussion territory, because what is a sweet book? I was looking through all the books that I read, and I'm like, I don't feel like any of these are sweet. So I don't know. I would love to know what you guys think, because I don't think I read a lot of dark or heavy or depressing type books.
Mm-hmm.
But I also feel like I wouldn't classify anything I read as sweet. So I was unsure.
It's interesting that you say that, because just earlier today, when I was on Twitter, a contemporary romance writer was saying that, because a lot of reviewers, when they're talking about closed door romances, will, and I'm guilty of this as well, will classify it as sweet. They're like, oh, this is very sweet. And she was like, there's nothing about my books that are sweet. It's just that you don't see anything explicit on screen. So yeah, it is a good question. What exactly makes a book a sweet book? I would think something like Pollyanna, or maybe Rebecca of what farm? Sunnybrook Farm. That's right. Have you ever read that?
Is that a Lucy Maud Montgomery? I've read some of her
not. It feels like it ought to be.
The name sounds like it should be. But no, I haven't read that one.
It used to be one of my all-time favorite books when I was a kid. I really enjoyed reading it. I think, sweetness is very, very subjective in my opinion. It's not, that's right. Kate Wiggins, Wiggin, apparently. That's who wrote Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm. And it's very much but it's very much like Anne of Green Gables. It's about this young woman who shows up at a farm, and then she's an orphan, and she makes friends with everybody.
That does
yeah,
sound
it's
very
a
sweet.
yeah. It really is that entire like Anna Green Gables, Pollyanna, Rebecca, Sunnybrook Farm. Like these are all like in that vein. Emily of New Moon, like all of those. So I think that's what I would call sweet, but you know, your mileage may vary.
No, that does make sense.
Yeah. Renee says sweet is something that she would define as predictable in a good way, comfortable, a book with a cinnamon love interest. She probably means cinnamon roll, but yeah, I feel like
That's fair.
that's fair. I would do that. Would you classify something that doesn't have a romance as sweet?
Oh, that's a good question, because one of the other close things, and again, everyone who watches my channel is going to go like, God, not again. But the other thing that came to mind in the books that I read as sweet is like Carrie Greenwood and Franny Fisher. And like, it's got that predictable, and like everyone is super, like, obviously there's murderers, but like all the good guys are really nice people who care about each other and stuff. But like, it feels like there's not, there's the lack of romance and the addition of murder sort of makes it like just not quite sweet.
I
Like if
don't
she
know
was
what you
telling a
mean.
super adorable relationship like she is in the TV show, the books would feel sweet. The TV show of Franny feels sweet because of that like slow build kind of like just makes you type relationship.
I still can't believe that they didn't give us like, you know, like one more season to wrap things up and instead gave us that movie. Like I'm so angry. We deserve better, like the characters deserve better, like everything deserved better. I'm so mad.
Yes.
Anyway, so yeah, those are all the questions that Renee had. Are those all the questions that your tag had?
Yeah. This is what happens when I get overly confident that I'm on top of things.
Okay, so what do you have coming up over the next week, Rosie?
That's a good question. Tomorrow I have a video going live. What do I have going live tomorrow? The Under the Influence tag, which is about all the books that Booktube has made me buy and stuff like that. So that should be fun. And then I think I have a wrap up coming. I'm not super on top of my Booktube stuff right now because, as Amrita knows, I'm about to move. So my brain is more focused on boxes. But I've got some, usual tag wrap up. And then I think next Sunday, hopefully, I will have a reading vlog up for Andy Weir's new book, Project Hail Mary, which is apparently much more like The Martian than his middle book. So that's coming out on Wednesday. I have it pre-ordered. Hopefully I will be reading that and then also editing a vlog by next Sunday. So if you've been thinking about checking that one out, come on over and hopefully I will have some thoughts for you very soon.
Excellent. So you can see that there's like a wide variety of things that are going on in Rosie's channel. You should check it out because it's always a good time. As for me, I think this coming week I'm going to be having a tag. I haven't had a tag posted in a while, so by a while I mean like 2 weeks, but that's a long time on this channel. So I'm gonna have a tag on Tuesday, and then I hope to have a wrap up later in the week as well. So you can look out for that. And I think this month is actually going to be a little bit on the lighter side because I do have some unexpected medical things coming up. But I will be here, and then Rosie and I will be joining Kim, Bookmarks and Breadsticks on her channel, along with Amy from Potato Brarian later this month, I think on the 22nd. If I'm not mistaken. And it'll be a return of the Feasting Females. If you remember, We had that live, was it a month ago? A while
Yeah.
back. Yeah. So you have all of that to look forward to, but posting might go back to like maybe one video a week later this month, when I'm dealing with the immediate fallout of my medical stuff. So I'll keep you posted on that. Thank you all for joining today. I had such a good time as ever talking to Rosie. Thank you, Renee, for your book challenge.
I'm so sorry I got the wrong one, Renee.
And I'll put in a link to whosever challenge it was that Rosie was doing.
I don't even know.
We'll find out who that was, and I'll update a link down below. So thank you to that person as well, whoever they might be. But this is what life is about, right? Like it's all kinds of stuff that's happening, and yeah. So thanks everybody, and I'll see you around on Amrita by the Book. Bye.
Thank you all. Bye.